Welcome, Premier Collectibles live signing. We're here with Rainn Wilson, and he is going to be signing his book, Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution. And I'm Bran Rumble. I'm Rainn's editor. I'm going to do something novel by introducing him really as the author of this book, and not for any of the other things he's done, but the author of this book, because he has been working on this for over 3 years, really probably even longer than that in his mind. And I've been working with him for 2 years now, and it has been just a blast. And we are so proud and excited to have this book here and be able to present it to you. Congratulations, Rainn. Welcome to your own live signing.
Thank you. Good to be here at my own live signing. Thanks for that delightful introduction, Brant. And thank you for choosing to publish Soul Boom. I really appreciate you and Hachette taking it on. It's kind of a weird endeavor. I'm going to flip the tables. I'm going to ask you a question to start us off.
Got it.
You got across your desk, you get a submission. Hey, the guy who played Dwight on The Office wants to write a book about spirituality. Why the hell would you choose to publish such a ridiculous idea?
Well, let's start with so I am a fan of The Office. I'm not a super fan of The Office. I'm not someone who I don't have the tattoos. I saw that recently on
Yes.
Instagram. But I've always been a fan and a fan of yours, and so obviously I knew who you were. I did also happen to know not a lot, but a little bit about SoulPancake and some of the things you had done before, and the ways in which you had been open about your spirituality. So I was at least slightly prepared.
Okay.
But even still, you're right. It's a big thing. I mean, anytime that someone in the public and notable wants to write a book about something other than the very obvious thing that all of their fans want them to write a book about,
right,
it's always a question.
I could do a beet recipes book and it would have been a bestseller, right?
Exactly. But really, it came down to reading the material you had prepared for us, and just seeing. I think the first thing that struck me was how deeply curious you were about all of this meaning spirituality, the big questions, everything. So it did not take me long from there to agree with all my colleagues that this was a great endeavor and that we should do everything we could to help you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for taking it on. Really.
So for anyone who doesn't know, you're at premiercollectibles.com/soulboom. If you didn't know the URL you were on or at or could go to buy a signed copy of this book. This is the purpose of doing this on the internet like this, is so that people who cannot attend one of Rainn's many events throughout the country can get a signed book anyway, and also ask him some questions. So we're gonna just go for it and start asking you some questions that are coming in over the thing. Are we
over the wire?
Over the wire.
Great.
The first question comes from the Czech Republic.
Ooh, wow.
It does. Romana, who asks, would you rather watch a sunrise or a sunset? Or maybe she actually asked it in the opposite order, which would make more sense. Well, no, a sunset or a sunrise, she says. So
okay.
I don't think the order matters. And which would you rather watch, and could you explain why? This is really an important first question to ask.
Yeah, well, I've never been asked that. I've never even remotely thought about that before. I think that one thing to think about is I always like to think about the fact that there are stars always shining. Whether the sun is out or not, we're surrounded by the immensity of outer space.
They don't just go away.
The sun just blots it out because there's a lot of light. So I like to think about that when I look at the sky, number one. I think sunrises are very powerful. I think they're powerful metaphorically. And unless you have stayed up all night partying or at a rave or with food poisoning and you're vomiting and watching the sunrise, which would suck. Generally, sunrises can be very meditative in a way, and that that little glow before the sun comes up. There's a name for it. There's a fancy name for it. Maybe someone will put that in. Is really it's a really beautiful, special light. Thank you, Romana.
Got it. There is something about being up before everyone else is also.
That's true. There's a stillness. Yeah. There's a purity of mind.
Yeah. So our next question comes from Iceland, because we really are. We're coming from all over. Hera Maria asks, whom were you closest to? Now, this is a real pivot.
Okay.
A real pivot. We're going from nature to family. Who were you closest to in your family when you were growing up, and how so?
In my family, that's an easy one. I was closest to my father. So my mom and dad got a divorce when I was about 1.5 years, and I stayed with my dad. So that was kind of unusual. So my dad was always the constant in my life, and there was a really profound bond there. We didn't always get along. There was remember my early 20s, there was a good year plus I didn't talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And we butted heads a lot. We certainly disagreed. He was a very spiritually wise man, and at the same time he liked to watch Bill O'Reilly.
Okay.
And he had a lot of contradictions.
Interesting.
And we did not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but a beautiful, deep bond. And I write about that.
Yep.
In my new book, Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution, I have a chapter called Death and How to Live It. And it was about how losing my father about 2 years ago started a whole thought process of thinking more deeply about death, and engaged in some deep probing conversations about the concept of death.
Got it. No, it's one of the more moving passages of the book for sure, and early in the book. So really, it's kind of a setup for the bigger questions you're asking. That's how I edited it, at least, right? Right. Initially, you had it at the very end, and I said, "No, move it. No, it's not what happened. Not what happened." Okay. From Florida, Shay, what do you think America needs to recover from the state that it's in now? A spiritual revolution, or does it go beyond that?
Well, I don't know how you go beyond a spiritual revolution. I mean, the thesis of the book is that we are one of the theses of the book. The main one is that we should be engaging in deep, beautiful spiritual conversations more often, that we can gain a lot by doing so. And there is a treasure trove of wisdom from various faith traditions that we can draw on to enrich our lives personally, but also societally. So this spiritual revolution that we're talking about here is a total transformation in kind of how we do pretty much everything. So I'm taking a big swing, but I'm saying that culturally, societally, in Western civilization right now, we have a system set up that is unsustainable.
Right.
It is a system that is based on greed and self-interest, on competition, on one-upsmanship, on some of the very worst qualities of humanity, I believe. And as long as we keep trying to put legislative band-aids on top of an engine that is this kind of frantic, competitive, dog-eat-dog kind of system, we won't fix the problems. So we need to go a little bit deeper as a society. I have some ideas on how to do that. It's a big task. But the spiritual transformation we're talking about is rethinking how we do everything. I'm not suggesting, we ban capitalism and just kind of give people mangoes and cheese graters on the corner. But that's not what I'm talking about. But what would a a capitalism whose goal was justice, fairness, equity, and a mutual support based in loving compassion, what would that look like? So I have a chapter early on called A Plethora of Pandemics. I know we have a lot of questions to get to, but we have called A Plethora of Pandemics. And there are so many pandemics going on. When you think about racism as a pandemic, materialism, militarism, and the granddaddy of them all, climate change, these pandemics are not going to be solved by passing a couple of laws. We have to address the underlying disease and stop using Band-Aids.
Well, that goes back to the question you asked me, what I thought. And part of what I thought was, well, we got to do something. So
we've tried the other stuff. It doesn't seem to be working. Things only seem to be getting worse. What can we do more specifically? We can insist that our public leaders and our elected officials start to work together. We can decrease our partisan rancor, which is nonsensical, and have the two halves of the country start speaking together, working together, uniting, finding common points of commonality, and working to solve those.
Yep. That sounds right to me. So we will move on to the next question in the interest of time. Corpus Christi, Texas. William asks, what character have you played that you wish you could expand more on or get a bigger side story?
Oh, wow. There's so many. There was a wonderful TV show. It was a very dark, twisted TV show called Utopia that no one ever saw. It was on Amazon. Amazon was ashamed of it because they didn't want anyone to see it because it was about a pandemic, and it came out during a pandemic. It was just the worst timing. And so, but it's a really interesting, dark, funny, satirical show. It really is, it's exciting and strange. And my character, Michael, who's a kind of this basement dwelling, nerdy scientist from a local community college, gets set on this journey. He's a virologist, where he literally could be saving humanity. So I wish to hell that Amazon had ordered a season 2 of Utopia. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
That's a good recommendation. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to do 2 things. One, I want you to get a full series as Dr. Demento.
Okay.
From the Weird Al movie.
Yep. Okay. The Dr. Demento story.
It's a great story. If anybody doesn't know who Dr. Demento is, look him up. Great story. Rainn played a version of Dr. Demento, if you will, in the Weird Al film recently, the film about Weird Al.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want you to do is be in Star Trek.
Right. Yeah. So I did Harry Mudd. I played the role of Harry Mudd in Star Trek Discovery, so I did 2 episodes as that character.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I'm not as much of a nerd as you think I am.
So Star Trek Discovery.
I'm learning things myself.
So I did get to do, but it was only 2 episodes, and he could really be doing a whole lot more.
Okay.
And I wish he was.
There you go. Well, we'll go there. Okay, from Las Vegas, Maggie. If you could only pick one takeaway from the book, what would you say it is? It's a tough one.
I would say that there are miraculous spiritual tools that have existed for eons that we can turn to, excavate, and harness to transform our lives.
Okay. In a nutshell.
How's that?
I'm glad we recorded this, so I'm going to get that. Okay. A second question from Las Vegas. Who knew you were very
Hey, I'm big in Vegas.
Big in Vegas. Tell us about a charity you love other than
Lide Haiti.
Lide Haiti, yes. We love that organization and donate already. Other good causes?
Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, there's so many great nonprofits. I was at a benefit last night for the Acting Company, which is a nice theater nonprofit that I was a member of. It helps sponsor young actors to travel the country and do classic plays, and kind of lets young actors cut their teeth on some great material. It gave me my launch as an actor. I was very grateful for the experience.
Okay. The next question comes from Belgium. Davo asks, as a psychology student, Davo is very curious to know if and how you think spirituality and psychology can go hand in hand to heal ourselves and others in these other difficult times.
That's a great question, and I really thank you. And I don't know whether to talk to you or the camera, so I'm going to do a little of both.
We're going back and forth.
Okay. So a book that I love is called, just came out last year, called The Awakened Brain by Dr. Lisa Miller from Columbia University. And she talks about the tangible, data-driven benefits of having a spiritual life in terms of psychology and in terms of well-being and happiness, resilience, and so many other aspects that make up the bedrock of positive psychology. I think positive psychology as a field is harmony, balance, and for instance, in positive psychology, service to others or an other-focused mindset can bring a person great peace and serenity. It also happens to make the world a better place. But you can do it for selfish reasons too. You can start with selfish reasons. This is exactly the same in every faith tradition that's out there. As Jesus says, do for me as you do for the least among you. That serving the poor, being of service to others, sacrificing your own comfort and material means for the benefit of others is really crucial. And so isn't that terrible? I'm talking about the evils of capitalism, and here I am trying to get you to buy my book to read about the evils of capitalism.
There we go. And let's go to Sweden. Sammy asks, hi, Rainn. That wasn't a question. That was just addressing you. Thanks for sharing your time with us, and congrats on the book. I was wondering how you navigate the fear of death, or if that's something you've been able to conquer. Sending love, Sammy. A light question.
A light question to start the day here in New York, fear of death. So in my chapter on death, I look at a lot of different faith traditions and a lot of quotes and a lot of different ways of thinking about death. And I'm really thankful for the question and thankful that we're having this conversation, because it's important to dig into. I know that we are spiritual beings and that our spiritual-ishness, our gooey spirit, our light, our soul, our radiant hearts, our consciousness is inhabiting these bodies, growing, fermenting. Like our bodies are these 80 to 90 year petri dishes. And then the bodies fall away and our light, heart, spirit, consciousness, soul continues on in whatever that kind of incredible journey it looks like. So I know that to be the case. Does that mean that has eliminated the fear of death for me? No. I mean, especially now that I'm in my mid 50s, to say generously, and as my body starts doing weird things and breaking down in all kinds of strange ways, I'm like, oh, hello, mortality.
Yeah.
It's real. It starts to get more and more real, believe me, when you hit your 50s. And I contemplate it more and more. And it does make every day ever more precious.
There you go. And I think that's a good segue into our next question, which is from Ohio. state I know well.
Okay.
My wife's from Ohio. I got married in Ohio.
All right.
Spent a lot of time in Ohio.
Wow.
So I'm very curious to see what the questions coming out of Ohio are.
Yeah.
Here it is. Ashley asks, what's something that can motivate you when you feel like you don't have any energy? It's a practical, good question.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume that who asked this question?
This is Ashley.
I'm assuming that when
Berea,
Ashley
Ohio.
says you don't have any energy, that she's not talking about like physical energy, but like motivation, like internal motivation. I would say that there is a twofold process that we undertake on our life journey. We do things to recharge our batteries, to get focused and centered, to find meaning. This charges our internal batteries, our heart batteries a little bit.
Okay.
And then we take that energy and we put it out into the world in acts of service, creating acts of joy, acts of gratitude, acts of connection. So if I'm feeling depleted, I need to recharge my battery. So I need to meditate is where I start, be in nature, connect with the mystery of the universe. I read holy writings from my faith, the Baha'i faith, but other holy traditions. And this recharges my batteries. Then when I feel a little bit of buzz, then is there something I can do to be of service to someone else? Is there some way that I can uplift another person? You just start really small, just a little meditation, stare at a tree and a hummingbird for a while, and then call a friend you haven't spoken to in a long time and just cheer them up. Just start there and see where it goes.
Now I'm gonna dive a little further down. What do you do when you're in the middle of a bunch of chaos and you need this? Like, what do you do when, whether it's personal or professional or whatever it is, there's a lot going on. What do you do in those moments to help you get through when you are lacking motivation? Or
it's a great question. And Brant, I think it's really important to understand that suffering is a part of being a human being. So we need to know that times of chaos, of overwhelm, of anxiety, of depression, of disappointment, all of the quote unquote of rage, all the negative emotions are real and they're a part of being a human being. And you're going to spend a certain number of days per year feeling those things. So it's an acceptance. It's an act of radical acceptance. I'm going to radically accept the emotions that are inside of me. Because if we try and push those emotions out or bury them or sweep them under the carpet or pretend they don't exist, it's not going to help us, and they're going to come out in other ways. So you start with acceptance, and then you can deal with it, because this has to do with the nature of suffering, which is a section I talk about in the book. Suffering is a reality. It's part of being a human being. And as we accept the fact that we will suffer and struggle and fail and be disappointed and heartbroken, and then it gives us resilience. So that's a good place to start. I think that for me, I go to the Buddha and his teachings on these subjects. And I also go to our modern Buddha, Eckhart Tolle. And whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, honestly, I put an Eckhart Tolle audiobook on and listen to his very soothing, strange Austrian voice lull me into simply being in the moment. Because that's one of the tools the Buddha brought, was bringing yourself back to the moment as an anchor.
Okay, got it. Music, do you ever listen to music as a way of doing that? Or is that
when I was younger, I did. Yeah. And I know my son, who's 18, when he's overwhelmed, he blasts music and dives into music and plays his favorite albums and plays on guitar. And I used to do a lot more of that when I was younger.
Got it. I'm still stuck at being 18, I think. So
you put on Led Zeppelin too,
exactly,
and a black light, and
there you go, rock and roll. Okay, Ricardo in Mexico. This one you've dealt with this question really, but let's see if you have anything you want to add to it. What was your inspiration for writing this book?
My inspiration for writing this book was these are ideas that I have been mulling for many decades. And I also really felt like my motivation for writing this book is I want to change the world. And I think that people need these ideas. I think this is really important. This isn't a hobby. It's not like a pastime. It's not, a fun little side project. I truly believe that we need a spiritual revolution. The world is hurting. Young people are hurting from this mental health crisis in ways that are just unfathomable. And I needed to do what I could. And this is an area of study of mine, and I have a strong take on it, and I needed to get it out to the world.
Yep. And for that, we are appreciative. So we move on. This is a really long question. I haven't read it yet, but I'm just gonna read it.
It's good.
We're gonna see how it works out. It comes from Catherine in the Netherlands. Dear Rainn, can't wait to read your book. I'm curious about your thoughts on my perceiving of the universe. I believe that our life on planet Earth is one of many journeys our souls participate in order to develop spiritually, and that our physical bodies are merely a vessel for our spirits. I have always felt that there is more than only this life, and our life, in quotes, problems, are just one of many lessons we need to learn so we can come to a point in our universal existence where we can reach another higher level of spiritual consciousness. On the top of that, the way I perceive our world is that we are connected with nature via elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space. And the higher we are in our spiritual consciousness, the more we are connected and in tune with nature. It's a very brief description, but I'd love to hear your comments on that. Yeah, study it.
Catherine from Arnhem, Netherlands. You need to write a book. Write your own damn book.
There you go.
Kat. Yeah, I agree. My favorite quote of all time. Oh, we just got dropped.
Michael, we just got dropped, it seems. Okay. Maybe we weren't dropped. We don't know. But that was just proof that
It looked like we were dropped. Did we just get minimized?
maybe we got minimized. We're checking with Houston. Houston, we have a
All
problem.
of a sudden, the screens just went away. Oh, nope, still here. Oh, we can still see and hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, well,
good.
That was just proof that this is unscripted.
You were on the whole time. Okay, as you saw me checking my phone.
Unscripted. One last question from the audience before we go to a couple of other fun things. Robbie, in New York, where we are, how does it feel to be part of something so universally loved by all ages? He is referring to The Office.
The Office, of course.
Excellent.
Yes, The Office. Listen, it's really important for folks to understand, for an actor to make any kind of a living in their craft is an absolute miracle.
Right.
If you get onto a TV pilot, that's like a triple miracle to just get cast on a TV pilot.
Okay.
If that pilot gets picked up and made into a show, that's like a quadruple 10 times miracle, right?
Yeah.
If that show stays on the air for more than a couple seasons, it's like times 100. It's so rare. It's so difficult. I know actors that have done like 12 pilots and their shows have never, they're just as talented as me, but their shows have just never been picked up. Then you get on a show that has great success. That's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then above that, The Office is even above that. There's tons of people that were on a lot of shows back in the day. I knew this guy who was on the show called Yes Dear. It had a huge following. It was on for 10 years. They would get 20 million people a week would watch it. No one cares about Yes Dear. No one's watching reruns of Yes Dear. But to be on The Office, that's on a classic show, that's revered, that's loved, that has a loyal fan base. It's a miracle above miracles above miracles. It's #blessed. I mean, it really is. It's astonishing how lucky I am as a weird character guy that I just ended up in this role. We almost got canceled. We ended up 9 seasons, 200 episodes. It's an absolute miracle.
Well, as the gentleman you sat next to on the plane, this
Yep.
viral video, that first season is slow. It
Yes, as I was asking him about The Office and slowly taking my mask off, I was like, oh, so the first season's a little slow, huh? And, but then that was a beautiful moment.
It was great to see. So we're going to go from slow to fast. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
We're going to do 22 questions in 2 minutes.
What about all these people?
Well, we can ask. We can.
Do they
let's see
do they buy books? Do we get to answer their questions?
How do you define a soul? Let's just jump to that question. It's
Okay.
right there on
Who
the
says
screen.
that?
That is we can't Cassandra. Somebody.
Cassandra. Okay. How do you define a soul? I don't know. That's one of the great mysteries. I would say that. How do you define God or the creator? An undefinable, all-powerful presence that's beyond space and time, that courses through the molecules and scientific principles of this world and of infinite other universes beyond this one. So take a little chunk of that, and that's a soul. So just a tiny little chunk, a little shard of the divine power, and it's in every single person. And that's how you would define a soul.
Excellent. And that's why he wrote the book, and I only edited it.
That's right.
Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution by Rainn Wilson. This is something you can purchase. It will be signed when it arrives by Rainn. Actually, it will sign it before it arrives, but then it'll go in the mail or something like that and get to you, and then you'll have it.
Here's a question from James Gilbert. Just bought your book. Thank you, James. Why do you think the country went away from spiritualism in the first place? That's a great question and a really important one. I think that people struggle with spirituality, right? Especially in the big cities and the liberal democracy, secular folk, for a very good reason. Religions have just been awful. Let's just face it. So many religions, not every aspect of them, but there's corruption and waste. There's fire and brimstone. There's people crashing planes into buildings. There's, priests and nefarious activities that the church knew about and kept hidden systematically for decades or longer. And the way that various religious groups deal with morality can be very troubling, and like who's accepted and who's not. And, the whole concept of hell, I really struggle with. So I think that has pushed people away from the church, and especially from all religion. And so many people right now, they hear the word religion and they're just like, oh, they don't even want to think about it. It's just too revolting. And I completely understand. In my specific faith, which this book is not about, but there's some inspiration that is drawn from my personal faith, which is the Baha'i faith. The one of the founders of the Baha'i faith, Abdul Baha, is his title. He said, if religion be a source of disunity, it were better that there were no religion. So here's the founder of a religion saying, like, hey, if religion doesn't cause unity and bring people together in love and harmony, then just get rid of it. And that's what we did. We got rid of it because it wasn't doing that. So good on us. Yay. Now comes a point where we can re-examine what did religion, things are falling apart, right? Mental health epidemics, suicide rates have tripled in the last 15 years. So what have we lost by jettisoning religion and spirituality? And I think that people are feeling this more and more. There's disconnection and disunity and militarism and anxiety and rancor everywhere, and people are looking for spiritual tools.
There you go.
Thank you.
Let's pick another question off the screen. I have a question I'm curious about. As an actor, okay, we're going to pivot here. As an actor, when you do a role for so long, like you did, as with Dwight, do you tend to adopt mannerisms of that character in your real life? It went off the screen. I couldn't read the very end of it, but
False.
Do you want to do 22 questions in 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's do 22 questions in 2
Okay.
minutes.
Where were you born?
Seattle, Washington.
Who would you want to play in a movie?
I would want to play Rasputin.
Okay. What's your first job? What was your first job?
I was a berry picker. I picked raspberries as a teenager on the farms of Washington State.
Nice. What chore do you hate doing?
Dishes.
What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is jellyfish, and also heights. When being enclosed in heights, so it's a combination of claustrophobia and heights, like
It's a
little
good thing,
airplanes, or like a Ferris wheel when you're in like a little compartment.
We're only on the 4th floor here, so
I know.
I think
it's
if
wide
we
open.
jumped, we'd just like break some bones or something. So
Maybe.
Okay. What makes you laugh the most?
What makes me laugh the most? My son, my 18-year-old son. He has a wicked sense of humor, and he's incredibly insightful.
Got it. I have a 16-year-old son. It's amazing when they become, almost adult people.
Now I have a question for you. Is your 16-year-old son, does he have any interest in reading Soul Boom?
I think he would be very interested. I'll take him a copy home tonight.
Can I sign him a
you
copy?
You can sign a copy for him.
Okay.
He's in school, so he's not currently logged on. I hope he's in school. That's what he claimed. That's where he claimed he was going. Okay. Okay. What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Oat milk.
Oat milk. Yes. It is the best milk substitute.
It's the best of the non-dairy milks.
Yeah.
It's creamier. It's foamier.
It feels like it's the right thing.
Yes.
Like pea milk.
Almond milk doesn't make any sense because you spend gallons and gallons of water growing almond trees. Then you harvest these little nuts from those trees. Then you mush it and add more water for milk. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But oat milk is big thumbs up. Okay. What is your favorite school subject, or was? I assume you're not in school anymore.
There's so many I like. English, I guess. Yeah. I loved reading. Yeah, I love fiction.
I enjoyed that one too. Hence, I became an editor, and I edited Soul Boom.
Way to bring it back around.
Okay. What is your middle name?
My middle name is Dietrich, but fun fact, someone on my Wikipedia page added the word Percival to my middle name. So on Wikipedia, it says Rainn Percival Dietrich Wilson. I love that they did that. Percival is not my middle name, but it should be.
I wonder if because, in the early days of Wikipedia, you could kind of get away with more of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's just something that's stuck.
It's stuck. No one's taking it out.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's see here. Who is the most interesting person you met recently?
Dr. Arthur Brooks from Harvard University. Fascinating guy, specialist on happiness, devout Catholic, kind of a center-right political thinker as well. He used to run a think tank, and just a brilliant mind. And he used to be a professional French horn player.
Okay. Wow. I think I had an uncle who was a French horn player, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, we're going to go through real quick. We're going to actually do this.
Okay.
We've been very positive in this, but what is your biggest pet peeve?
People interrupting.
Okay. What is your favorite hobby?
Tennis.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
Do you have any hidden talents?
Yes, I'm very good at, chess and lovemaking.
What color is your toothbrush?
I think it's blue.
Okay. What's your pet's name? Oh, you have a lot
I
of
have
pets.
too many.
Yeah.
Diamond and Poe and
so many.
Baby Francis and Snortington and Amy and Alma.
What's your favorite word?
Loquaciousness.
What is the last album that you bought or streamed?
I would say Big Thief.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
What is it called? Big Small Dragon Breathing Fire Down on the Clouds Upon Heaven and Thunder. I forget the name of the album.
Title that's not easy to remember.
Yeah.
What is the last gift you gave?
I gave a copy of Soul Boom by Rainn Wilson to Yvette Nicole Brown, who tweeted it and posted about it this morning.
Excellent. Excellent. And I'm not going to ask what cause is dear to your heart because I think we've gone over that. What is your greatest achievement? What is your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement is being married for 28 years.
There you go. Where do you want to go that you've never been?
Mongolia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution, Rainn Wilson, buy a signed copy. Let's find that sheet of paper again. premiercollectibles.com/soulboom or livesigning.com/soulboom, or wherever books are sold if you don't want a signed copy. But I think you do want a signed copy or else you wouldn't have watched this. So thank you, Rainn, for being here. And thank you.
I signed all those books. Every little morsel of ink on those pages was put there by my pen. So you can just nestle up. It's like snuggling me. Just put your face against the ink of the page and just snuggle up against there. And it's like I am in bed with you. Is that?
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching.